At the European Parliament here in Strasbourg, the Roma issue has once again been taken up, and the spokesperson, the rapporteur, is Livia Jaroka from Hungary. She is a Roma herself, and that makes it more interesting to hear her point of view when it comes to, for instance, the situation of inclusion of Roma. People are very hostile sometimes towards Roma. How to avoid that?
There is a lack of knowledge on the European level, a different type on the Western European side and a different one in the Eastern European. The post-communist experience is quite unknown to the Westerners, so for them this sort of poverty is something new, this African Saharan poverty. And in the last 10 years, not only we had to show that it exists, but also at the same time we had to start it to fight the anti-Roma or the anti-poor sentiment of those people who are getting less and less secure because of the financial crisis. Because
there are 40 million poor people in Europe.
The poorest.
The poorest even. How many of those are Roma or Sintis?
I would say we don't have really good data because of ethnic data is not possible to be collected. But I would say 10 million of them who are extremely poor, because 30% of the European Roma are integrated. You don't even recognize them on the street. You don't know that Eric Cantona, Ibrahimovic, or famous football players or famous actors are of Roma origin. But 30% also had an economic integration. They have jobs, they have professions. But the 10 million who is remaining in the ghettos and the settlements of Europe, they are surrounded by non-Roma poor in the same way. And those non-Roma are also discriminated, not because of skin color, but because of the area where they come from. They are coming from areas where are no schools, where are no jobs.
But what do you yourself feel when people are accusing your people, the Romas, of being criminals, begging children, stealing in shops, and?
Many Roma are very angry at the other Roma, the very few families who have a deviant lifestyle. Therefore, the whole Roma population is looked through the lenses of these stories that people read in the newspapers. So therefore, it's extremely important that both the positive and the negative aspects of this sort of post-communist poverty will be shown. And also, we always see the surface when it comes to the Roma issue. So people know very little about the history of this, how this poverty has developed and what is behind the migration. Very few people understand. Therefore, my main message is to change the paradigm shift, but not only in the political scene, not in the parliament only, but also at the same time I have to work with the Roma themselves, because it's also the Roma who can do a lot about the image that they have around Europe.
So what was the aim of your report here?
First, 2 years ago, we proposed a European Roma strategy to the Commission, which they took over, the Council adopted, so now every single country has to produce integration projects to make sure that they get EU funding for other things. This is only written in law in Hungary, but for example in this new report I'm already proposing this next step, because after 2 years of the starting of the implementation we already see backlogs, we already see the problems that we were scared of that could not be avoided at the planning phase, but now when we see the programs running we already see that they had to be changed. So 2 years after the launching of the European strategy I wrote a criticism on how it works now, and several issues are missing to make sure that the projects can be complex, that money arrives and that people are satisfied, both those who were in the project and both those who are living around.
Would you say that the money is there now to do what's needed?
Definitely. We found from the national action plans that countries are not ready to use them. There must be several reasons. One of them is political. People don't dare to do anything for the poor because they are losing votes, politicians.
Today, the 11th of December, the Commissioner for Human Rights at the Council of Europe has issued a report on the Italian situation. strongly blaming the Italian authorities for not doing, especially in Rome, what's asked for. How do you foresee people, governments, to react the way they should, according to both your report and to the criticism by the EU, by the Human Rights Commissioner of the Council of Europe?
I think there should be a two-way push. One has to come from the institutions, Council of Europe, European Commission. Peer watching in the Council is not enough. So every single member state every yearly has to be checked. Where are they at with the integration? I propose a dashboard with concrete numbers to see the real results. Where did the money go? I also proposed a much better monitoring system, but at the same time I believe there must be a push coming from the citizens for good monitoring and good projects. Mayors are going to be voted in next elections only if they have run good integration projects. Voters have to be much more conscious to not to vote for people who are not ready to do this huge job of cooperating with the local organizations, cooperating with the poor ghetto areas, bringing people to the table, mapping the problems, trying to find a common solution, which is usually a factory being built next, so very easy solutions very often. A new school, a good health center, some afternoon possibility for the children to gain some extra knowledge that they would be never able to gain because of money problems. And at the same time, this community have to consciously watch whether the EU money was well used or not. Because who could monitor it the best, if not the people who designed it and who live it through?
May I end up by the situation of the Roma children? Now it's said that a Roma at a certain, in a certain country, so to speak, is the responsibility of that country. When children are put into school, we very often see that children around this Roma child are hostile even in between. How to get close to both parents, schools, authorities, telling them there is a need to protect this special child.
And to make sure that they start early childhood development early, because some of the parents from these poor communities are only trying to tell themselves because of guilt that the child is small, so it's okay for a few years maybe. For many years we felt that only love is needed for a 6-year-old child. By now we have learned that the socialization of a child finishes by the age of 10. So if we don't start this work at the age of 2, we are going to lose these people. And so far Europe was thinking, okay, Roma are losing these kids, or the poor losing this quality and this capacity. But now Europe had to understand, no, Europe is losing huge by not investing into these children, because in 10 years' time, in 15 years' time, these children would be in huge need in the European economy. And not putting energy into them now is a huge suicide for many of the member states with bad economic prospects.